Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zeng here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank, where I climb the online VGC 15 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. It's a brand new season over here on BattleSpot, so our rating has been reset back down to 1500. I figured I would use Jeremy Rodriguez's team just for a couple more episodes before moving on to a brand new team. I believe that he'll be posting his team report soon enough on Nugget Bridge as well, so when that goes up, I'll definitely let you guys know. In addition, I'm actually pretty excited for this season of BattleSpot because the special rule set is actually VGC 15 without Mega Evolution. So I think that's going to be a really interesting format, and I definitely actually want to do a lot of content around it despite me not normally covering the special rule set. And one of the biggest reasons for that is because right now we actually don't know what the VGC 2016 rule set will be. So, some people speculate that we might see VGC 15 without Mega Evolutions, and of course they probably haven't even come to a decision over at Pokemon, but might as well just get a head start and see what the format's like. I think the format, I've already played a little bit of it, is really interesting because by removing Mega Kangaskhan, a lot of things honestly just become more viable, and it's a super fun format, really reminiscent of 2012 and 2013, both formats that I really loved. So stay tuned for that. I'll be definitely posting some content on that, and I'll probably be streaming it here and there as well. And for those that don't know, I do stream weekly now at twitch.tv/CybertronVGC, so give the channel a follow if you don't already. Anyway, let's get into today's episode. I did actually already played 2 games just because both of them were against like 1400 rated opponents and ended really quickly, so I figured you guys didn't really want to see that. And as always, I'll probably play a couple of games off screen just to get the rating a little bit higher in between, and get us to higher rated opponents. But we're gonna find Raw Fox from Mexico with a rating of 1502. As always, if you guys enjoy Road to Rank, please share your support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Our team here that we've got is Salamence, Sylveon, Zapdos, Kangaskhan, Conkeldurr, and Milotic. So most likely dual Mega Evolution in Kangaskhan and Salamence here, which is definitely a really strong option. Immediately I can see that my Gardevoir is really good because Hyper Voice hits all of my opponent's team for either neutral or super effective. The one thing it's going to want to avoid is a potential Wide Guard from Conkeldurr, since Conkeldurr, if it carries Wide Guard and it doesn't have the Assault Vest, can shut it down. So I do have to be careful of that, but I definitely want to rely on the Gardevoir here a lot, I think. Rotom I think is also really good, especially for Milotic, Zapdos, and Salamence. Let's see. I'm tempted to bring Sableye, but I think Whimsicott might actually be the way to go this time around. Though, the potentially scary thing here is Zapdos could have Tailwind, so for example, if my opponent leads Kangaskhan, Zapdos, and I lead Gardevoir, which is the Pokemon I want to lead, then I'm kind of in some trouble. But I feel like my opponent's not going to allow me to just, sweep with Gardevoir immediately. So I'm actually kind of tempted to go with Terrakion Whimsicott here, with Rotom and Gardevoir. The issue with those 4, however, is that it's really weak to Sylveon, but Sylveon, the only Pokemon I really have for Sylveon is Heatran, and I'm not sure how well Heatran fares in this matchup. Like, it can wall the Salamence a little bit, depending, but I don't think my opponent brings Salamence here. I think you bring in Kangaskhan. For that reason, I guess I'm not going to bring Heatran. Alright, I'm going to lock in. We'll see how this goes. But Sylveon, definitely the biggest threat on my opponent's team. And, that's something I mentioned a fair amount of times when we play with this team. I think, like, Sylveon, it's just a little bit tricky to deal with because of the fact that we don't have any Pokemon that can one-hit KO it. You get the Hyper Voice from Gardevoir and the Psychic, which does over 50%. Potentially actually swaggering the Terrakion and going for Poison Jab is a really cool play, but you actually just lose 10% of the time, since if Swagger misses, you're done for. But looks like I called it wrong here. We're going to see Salamence and Sylveon come out immediately from my opponent against my Whimsicott and Terrakion. So this is definitely a scary lead matchup, I would say, here, because of the fact that Sylveon obviously immediately threatens both of my Pokemon, and I don't really have a great switch out either. So I think this first turn I'm honestly just going to go straight for the Tailwind, and I am going to protect here with my Terrakion, and my opponent honestly can just double Hyper Voice. So I really was expecting to see something like Kangaskhan Zapdos here, because I think that threatens Gardevoir significantly, whereas if I led Gardevoir here, I could have just Tailwinded and I got in a free switch in, but perhaps my opponent was anticipating the Sableye. Either way, not a good lead matchup for me here. Definitely going to have to play around it a little bit. But I do get my free Tailwind up here, as my opponent decides to not protect with either Pokemon, deciding to really not care about the beat-up combination coming out here. Hyper Voice does come out from the Salamence here. It does bring me down to my Focus Sash, as we're going to see Sylveon here go for a Hyper Voice of its own. So yeah, really the simplest play possible for my opponent there, but the most effective one as well. So that's definitely really scary. That does mean I get to bring in my Gardevoir here. Let's see. I'm tracing Aerialate. That's not really gonna help me out. I don't know if Hyper Voice plus -1 Poison Jab can knock out Sylveon. But I'm gonna go for it. I don't really have any. I mean, I guess I could go for the Rock Slide Flinch play, or I could Psychic Poison Jab to get the single target of Psychic. But it's not that much significantly more damage. I guess we'll see, depending on the damage rolls here. Don't know how offensive this Sylveon is. Perhaps that was a mistake. I'm actually, you know, trying to do the calcs in my head. I don't think I'll be able to pick up the knockout here. We do see the Solomon switch out. So the real question is, does Sylveon protect here? Because nothing can really take this Hyper Voice. It is going to be my Milotic coming in here, which I'm fine with. So ultimately, bringing in the lead matchup was basically not very ideal for me. I really didn't think we'd see Salamence, and I should have considered Sylveon coming out as a lead. But example, if I led Heatran, my opponent led Kangaskhan Zapdos, that would have been pretty bad. But gonna get this Poison Jab off against the Sylveon. Let's see how much it does. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna be enough, unfortunately. This Hyper Voice comes out from the Gardevoir. But Sylveon goes for the Psyshock as opposed to a Hyper Voice there. And that's not enough to knock out Terrakion. I really don't understand why my opponent went for the Psyshock play there, but I'm not going to complain. That might have just won me the game. Or not won me the game, but definitely kept me in there. Hyper Voice definitely would have picked up the knockout there, so very confusing play there. And in retrospect, based off how much Sylveon hung out with, as Milotic actually goes for the Protect here, going for the Psychic play probably would have been better. As my opponent actually going for the double Protect there, so just to burn a turn of Tailwind. Really clever play there. And I'm actually a little bit scared right now knowing that my opponent has Salamence in the back, because Salamence kind of runs through Gardevoir and Terrakion. So the question here is, do I want to anticipate the Salamence and actually set up a trick, or go for the Trick Room here? And I'm actually going to go for the Trick Room. I'm going to Rock Slide Trick Room here. Okay, so he's going to go for the double Protect here with Sylveon. Doesn't get it. Rock Slide does connect, so I should be able to pick up the knockout here onto the Sylveon, as it does. Crits Milotic as well, which is a little bit fortunate. We'll see what Milotic goes for here. He's going to go for the Scald here, hopefully target down Terrakion. I actually don't want Terrakion at this point in the game, but he actually smart enough to target down Gardevoir. I do, however, successfully set up Trick Room, so that means now that Salamence is instantly knocked out by Gardevoir, and Tailwind is going to expire here, as Milotic heals from leftovers. But it was a pretty ideal turn for me there, and I'm still very just surprised to see my opponent have not gone for the Hyper Voice. I don't really understand the decision to Psyshock there. Conkeldurr is my opponent's last Pokemon, so, you know, definitely a very strong option for the last one. But with that, let's see. I'm going to Hyper Voice here. And I will Close Combat the Conkeldurr. Yeah. Now, unless Conkeldurr has something like Poison Jab, nope, he's going to have Knockoff, but that won't be able to remove my item. So you see there, it doesn't do that much damage. Depending on who Skull targets here, let's see. Yeah, he's going to double up on Gardevoir there, which is why I went for the Close Combat. This is going to work out perfectly, as I do get the Hyper Voice off successfully. Doesn't knock out the Milotic there, as comes really, really close, but Close Combat here does finish it off. Oh, so this is actually a really intense game. I figured my opponent would double target there, which is why I didn't Protect or switch out the Terrakion there, just going for the attack. And if my opponent just Scalded the Terrakion, then Gardevoir hangs out with more HP, ensuring that the following turn, you know, things look pretty solid. So Milotic and Salamence now are both in Hyper Voice KO range. Presumably, he is going to just Scald, and he's going to Scald Gardevoir since Milotic outspeeds, and just Hyper Voice. So my way to 100% win this match is just go Close Combat Milotic, and you see Protect Salamence, and yeah. The reason why this is the 100% win is because I do have Rotom Wash in the back, and I can just hit him Power Ice. He actually goes for the Recover with Milotic, which is a really good move. I like that a lot. I think Hyper Voice and Close Combat should be enough to knock it out. That actually wasn't a move I was considering from my opponent's end, but let's see. Yeah, that's definitely going to be enough. There was no reason to target down the Salamence there, so at this point in the game, you know, if Milotic Scalds Gardevoir, Terrakion still underspeeds the Salamence, assuming that he's max speed Salamence. So I guess if the Mence wasn't max speed or it was slower, then maybe my opponent had a shot there. But basically, I knew that even if he knocks out my Gardevoir, I'll be able to knock out Milotic, and once Milotic goes down, then I basically win the match since Rotom Wash beats the Salamence. So now I'm just going to Hyper Voice Rock Slide, and that's going to be a good game. So yeah, I mean, I really want to try to understand my opponent's decision to Psy Shock there on the Terrakion rather than Hyper Voice, since Hyper Voice was such a good move there. But sometimes, you know, you just get trapped into a position where you don't know exactly how to deal with it. So good game to my opponent for sure. That was really intense, and I honestly think I would have lost if I didn't go for Trick Room. It's kind of one of the neat things about this team, since Tailwind runs away or runs out really quickly, so sometimes you have to think of clever solutions to deal with it after Tailwind, since, you know, the thing about Tailwind is you really get one huge turn, because if your opponent has Protect and they can double Protect, you get one turn where you predict their switch outs or attack, and then there's another turn of double protecting. And then after that, you know, Tailwind's just gone, so you really have to fully capitalize off there, and, you know, we did enough damage at that point where it was fine, force the switch out there, but a track on being able to hang on definitely helped me a significant amount there. But it's going to be a win for our first game of the new season, so we're just going to jump back in and see what we find, as our rating is currently 1540. Otherwise, in that match, you know, once again, I do have to point to lead matchup being the biggest issue, but it's not like leading Heatran really would have helped me out that much more, because that means that my opponent would have had a free switch into Milotic or Concal there, which would have been pretty bad. So based off the position I was given, I think it was decent. The one play I would change is doubling up into Sylveon with Psychic as opposed to Hyper Voice to ensure the knockout, since it was fairly evident that Salamence would switch out there. But our next game here is against another pretty cool team here, mainly because of the Lopunny, so presumably Mega Lopunny, otherwise standard core of Landorus, Thundurus, Heatran, Sylveon, and Amoonguss. So Mega Lopunny here definitely on my opponent's side, as opposed to like Kangaskhan, which you almost always see with that core. So once again, we do see the Sylveon. Sylveon almost always another major threat here, always super scary. And, you know, against the kind of teams where it's like Heatran, Landorus, Thundurus, Amoonguss, I really like it. I like the matchup a lot when they don't have Sylveon, but the Sylveon here completely changes things up because they have redirection with Amoonguss as well. So Sylveon in combination with Amoonguss is a major issue, and one in which I have to rely on both Gardevoir and Heatran, but that combination is really weak to Landorus' Earthquake. Even Lopunny can dish some damage against it, so definitely scary position to be in from the start. I'm going to have to really think about what I want to lead with here. Let's see. I could go the Whimsicott Tailwind route here. I could. Or I could go the Sableye route. I'm honestly leaning towards Whimsicott a little bit more this game. So let's see. I don't know, the Sylveon's really what's scaring me here. So maybe I'll lead with Heatran in case my opponent leads Sylveon. But then I don't really like leading Whimsicott there. Maybe I'll go Sableye Heatran actually, with Gardevoir and Terrakion or Rotom Wash here. Ooh, that's definitely a tough call. But I'm gonna go with Rotom just because it. You know, I would use Terrakion mainly for the Thundurus and the Heatran. Rotom can Hydro Pump knock out the Heatran, can Hidden Power Ice knock out the Landorus, which is the most important thing. Thunderbolt, Life Orb Hydro Pump might actually knock out the Lopunny. I'm not sure about the damage calcs there, but once again, seeing another Sylveon, definitely really scary. But I'm going to lead with Heatran Sableye. This gives me a bunch of setups. I can Swagger, I can Will-O-Wisp my own Heatran, as we see the Thundurus Heatran from my opponent's side, which I'm okay with. It's not the best, but it's also not the worst. Definitely glad I didn't lead with Gardevoir here, though. I could Swagger immediately. You know, I'm going to switch out to Rotom here for sure. I really do want to Swagger. I'm actually going to just Swagger Thundurus. Not mainly for the confusion, but actually more for the foul play damage, so I can potentially double up and knock it out the next turn. And Rotom coming out here definitely threatens my opponent offensively. Heatran goes for the Protect, which I'm more than okay with. We might see a Thunder Wave actually go into Rotom Wash, or a Taunt. Yep, perfect. So that's why also I targeted the Thundurus slot there. So that works out ideally for me here, as I do get the +2 attack boost instantly. Without a doubt, this Heatran's going to be switching out this next turn. So the question is, do I want to eliminate Thundurus immediately here? Because I think I want to Swagger the Heatran and Hydro Pump it. And that's the play I'm going to go for here. I'm predicting maybe a Amoonguss switch in. Let's see. So if he stays in, he just gets knocked out. If he brings in Amoonguss, then he gets confused, which helps my case significantly. No, I do think the Thunderbolt foul play onto Thundurus was maybe a little bit better. The main issue is right now Thundurus might carry Protect or it could switch out. Heatran is going to be pulling out here, though, so let's see what comes in. Amoonguss? Yep, going to be Amoonguss, so, you know, not doing as much damage with the Hydro Pump here, and looks like Thundurus here might be going for the Protect, actually. Oh, nope, he just actually goes for the Thunder Wave onto the Sableye, which is fine. So, Swagger here does connect with the Amoonguss. And of course, this looks a little bit cheap since I'm just spamming Swagger, but the honest, you know, answer to you guys is right now, I'm not relying on it, just making the odds a little bit more difficult for my opponent, and at the same time, you know, even if my opponent hits through, that's fine. Hydro Pump there actually does a fair amount there to Amoonguss, I'm pretty pleased with that. So this next turn, I can actually maybe double up into it with a Hidden Power and a Foul Play, and given that the Amoonguss is at +2 attack, I think that might actually be enough to pick up the knockout, so let's see. And both Thundurus and Sableye are confused right now, so my opponent probably feels the pressure to switch out. But no switch outs here. Thundurus going for the attack. Gonna hit itself in confusion this time around. As Rotom is gonna be able to get the Hidden Power Ice successfully off against the Amoonguss. It comes a little bit close. Let's see. He might also outspeed me. Yeah, he does. I didn't think about that fully through. He does get the Spore off here. That was not a very good play, as he spores Amoonguss, or Rotom Wash here. So let's see if Sableye attacks through. It gets the Foul Play off at least. Okay, nice. Is that enough to knock him out? Nice, it does pick up the knockout at least. But I definitely should have protected Rotom Wash and just Foul Played there. I kind of got misled by the damage output from Hydro Pump, but if you actually think about it, Hidden Power Ice's base power of 60, you know, isn't really that much when Hydro Pump is that powerful. So we do see Lopunny come out here. So that's pretty good to see as one of my opponent's Pokemon. Let's see. What do you do here for my opponent? Probably fake out the Sableye. Could burn a turn of sleep here with Rotom. I guess I'll do that. I'll just go for Thunderbolt Will-O-Wisp. Forcing Lopunny to fake out. If he doesn't fake out, then he just gets burned, and the game might just be over, right? But surprised to not see Sylveon come out for my opponent either. Slight misplay that last turn for sure, though. And he just lets me go for the Will-O-Wisp. Wow. Maybe hoping that I would switch out or hoping that I'd miss or get paralyzed, but that's really good. He's going to go for the Drain Punch here onto Sableye, but being burned, it still does a lot of damage, as it is super effective. See if Thundurus hits itself in confusion, as it does. So getting a little bit lucky right now with the Swagger so Rotom is going to take that first turn of sleep. But things are looking quite solid for me right now, for sure. As he is going to take some burn damage there. So let's see, with that... You probably Drain Punch once again. Well, now it's a pretty free time for Gardevoir to come in, so I'm going to try to wake up with Rotom here. I'm switching Gardevoir. The game's certainly not over because of my opponent's Heatran in the back, so ideally I want to bring myself to a point where I can pick up a double knockout. So here I'm going to trace a Scrappy. That's not going to mean too much here, as he is going to launch another Drain Punch targeting Gardevoir once again. So Gardevoir switching in here is going to be able to resist that quite nicely. Even with that critical hit, only literally does 15 damage. So let's see if Thundurus breaks through confusion here. Finally does. Going to be able to get a Thunderbolt off successfully against the Rotom Wash. Does a good amount of damage there. And I, unfortunately for my opponent, wake up. So I'm going to be able to Thunderbolt here. That plus the burn is actually enough. You know, gets a critical hit there. But with the Life Orb, Mega Lopunny is really frail. So this game I definitely got a little bit lucky. I mean, Thundurus not attacking through definitely helped out. Surprised by my opponent's decision to stay in. Also very surprised to not see Sylveon even make an appearance in this matchup. But hey. So Heatran comes back in for my opponent. That's perfectly cool with me. I'm going to actually switch out into Sableye, Mega Evolve, and... Do I Trick Room here? Do I just Psychic? Definitely want to think this one through. Because once I eliminate Thundurus, Rotom wins the game. So yeah, I'll just Psychic here. Because the idea is he'll Thunderbolt knock out the Sableye. The only misplay, I mean, that might have been a slight error, because if he has Flash Cannon or Overheat, you can double up onto Gardevoir, which would make this game a lot scarier. So we're going to see Thunderbolt come out, but he is going to target down Sableye. Okay, good. Yeah, picks up the knockout. That's fine. Sableye has done his job in this game. A really good job in that. The Gardevoir is faster, so it is going to get the Psychic off, so unless Heatran has the Flash Cannon or the Overheat, as actually, that's going to be game right there, a Psychic knocks out Thundurus. So, single target Psychic really coming in. He did have Flash Cannon there, so I think Flash Cannon plus Thunderbolt would have been able to knock me out, as you see there. So if Psychic didn't pick up the knockout, it would have been a little awkward of a position, but since his Thunderous never revealed Protect, I figure it would have been fine, given that then he'd be forced to target one of my Pokemon. Heatran would be able to pick up the knockout, and Rotom would just have to, would have to connect on the Hydro Pump to win the game. But now with Heatran as my last one, this is going to be the end of the match. So Gardevoir is going to go for the Psych against Heatran. Psychics against Heatran actually still do a relatively decent amount there, as you see by the output. Rotom Wash does connect with the Hydro Pump here with the Life Orb. It is going to be enough to take out the Heatran. So two really intense games, honestly. This first one was interesting. Unfortunately, Mega Lopunny didn't do very much, and I honestly think one of the major reasons was because I was lucky enough to connect with the Will-O-Wisp through Paralysis. So RNG was definitely in my favor this time around, as got a couple of confusion rolls there. Not let those matter too much. I'd say connecting the Will-O-Wisp onto Lopunny was the biggest thing, because once Lopunny was burned, then that meant that Gardevoir would be able to successfully come in and threaten with Hyper Voice, even though Rotom Wash actually woke up pretty quickly as well. So it's one of the games where Swagger from the beginning of the game just made it very uncomfortable for my opponent and was able to predict a couple protects here and there. I definitely just put the odds in my favor. My opponent didn't decide to switch out either, so I was able to fully capitalize off it. But a pretty interesting match at that. I wish Lopunny could have did a little bit more, but the team definitely came through. But yeah, really enjoyable episode to start out the new season for you guys. I thought both of those games were definitely really tense, and both of my opponents are pretty solid as well. So exciting. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's nice to be back, and definitely stay tuned for more content. Like I said, I do want to do the special battle spot a little bit more, or focusing on it, just to see what VGC 15 without Megas is like, and to maybe scout out a potential rule set. In addition, like I mentioned, I am streaming weekly on Twitch, so give me a follow at twitch.tv/CybertronVGC if you don't already. Anyway, that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright, peace.